Hey, Merry Christmas. I've got a Council old number 7 maul here, which is actually a new maul. Took a few whacks with it and decided to sharpen up the cutting edge a little bit. It had a real durable, a little bit blunt edge on it, and sharpen that up. I was getting quite a bit of kind of bounce and vibration in the handle, so that's why I did that. He came back out, and I've taken a couple whacks on this dry old piece of eucalyptus here, and I've got chips bouncing around, sound like ricochets. So I decided to get the camera running and see what happens. It feels better already, but this is an exceptionally dry, hard chunk here, so we'll see what we get. Man, that feels like I'm just hitting it with the back end. Of course, I'm intentionally going for the toughest direction across the rings there. Try going with the rings a little bit. There we go. There you can, I don't know if you can hear that sound on the camera, but gets that hollow sound and you know you've got it. There it is. But boy, just going straight for across the middle is not gonna happen. Not in this stuff. Pretty hard to get it going, but once you get it going, it doesn't hold together because this stuff's been down for decades. So anyway, seems to be an improvement. It's getting a better bite on the initial that leading edge there is a little sharper, and I noticed it because I brought my Australian Cyclone block splitter out, and it didn't have, it's actually almost the major angle is wider, but the initial lead-in was sharper, and I wasn't getting the bounce and the vibration with this one that I was getting, and with the Council. But it seems to be there now. I may go a little sharper. We'll see. So here's the stuff that I was just splitting. You can see why it's difficult. There's all that curvy, wavy interlocking grain. Makes pretty lumber, but the stuff cracks really bad as it dries. And then there's this other species that's the same color, a little bit different red, not as deep in blood red, but the grain is straight, and it kind of reminds me of cedar, except it's a lot harder and heavier, but it splits a lot easier, not as easy as cedar does. And this is kind of my MO. I'll take a maul and crack it all up, but not knock all the pieces down, so it stays together. And then I might finish it with a maul, but a lot of times I'll come back later with a lighter axe that's easier to swing and split all those smaller pieces. This one's almost there. this is what it looks like before I start on it. If they're really tough, then I'll start off with the maul and work with the grain out here. But then it makes a mess. You got pieces everywhere. Gotta keep standing them back up, chasing them around. This one here is ready for the little guy. This here is another species. It's kind of yellow gray in the middle, but the thing about it is, I've probably mentioned it before, but almost all this eucalyptus seems to have about a 2-inch thick rind, or maybe it's the sapwood when the tree's still growing, but on this, the sapwood is growing sideways, and so it's almost impossible to get a good straight split on the outer wood. I almost never split it initially. What I usually do is bring a chainsaw and nip a couple inches in all the way around, and then split it with a axe or a maul. It actually splits real easy once you get into the inner wood. It's that outer rind that's really a mess. Speaking of the interlocking grain, I think that's river red gum. All this wood out here is just, it's been down in the desert for so long that it's all just burned to gray. All the bark is long gone. You can't really tell what it is until you get into it. But this is one I just cut down the other day. It's a couple videos ago, the codominant eucalyptus. I think it's river red gum, and you can see how much it's cracked already. And this is the codominant split where it broke and fell apart. I'm gonna jump, I guess, just because I'm here talking about it, jump over into finishing the discussion on felling this tree that I should have included in the original video. It's generally considered dangerous, because it is, to cut into a codominant stem, because once you get in there, you can separate. If you cut into where the codominant stems meet, the one section can fall off and crush you, or the whole thing fall apart. There's videos of it floating around out there on social media. But this being river red gum, as we were talking about, there's that good old interlocking grain in there, so it held together until it went over. But then again, you've got that black corrosion crud in there where it wasn't adhered well. So what I did with this tree when I felled it was I basically intentionally I started on this smaller stem over here that was leaning off to the side, and I took my face cut all the way in to the codominant joint, and then I stayed out from in front of it while I was doing that, and then I went in with my back cut over here on the bigger stem. And that way I figured if the smaller codominant stem decided to peel off and go, it could peel off and go, and then I would just fell the rest of it. But they held together until it hit the ground, as you saw in the video. So anyway, that's the codominant follow-up and caution tacked onto the back of a splitting video. Merry Christmas, everybody, whatever you got left of it, wherever you're at. So I decided to come over here and try a little bit of pine, which it's either Aleppo pine, it's like from Arabian countries, I think, Middle East, or maybe Monterey, which I think is coastal California. But anyway, it doesn't grow like a conifer. It branches out like an oak tree or whatever, and it's really tough and stringy and full of sap, and when it dries, it's real hard. That's all sapwood in there. If you guys could smell this video, it'd make your nose run and your eyes water. But both of these, the Cyclone and the Council Old number 7, they did pretty good. Neither one of them really sticks, but they don't bounce too much either. I want to say the Cyclone might bounce a little bit, but not bad. And Old number 7 never really bounces and never really sticks. Kind of like it. It could maybe be a bit sharper for like knots and stuff. If you got a knot up here on the end grain, but it's kind of just right how I like them, where if it doesn't split all the way, you can crack it and then twist the handle and rotate the round to the next spot where you want to take a whack, and just keep repeating that procedure all the way around until you get the whole round cracked up, and then you can start blowing your firewood pieces off. Works pretty good. Just a little more follow up on the pine thing. This is all Aleppo pine here. It's kind of a darker brownish yellow, real grainy. And then this over here is Ponderosa I cut down in the mountains a couple of years ago, probably, from that log there. And this stuff splits with like half-hearted swings of those mauls, and it weighs almost nothing. I mean, it's like air weight. Feels like balsa wood or something, whereas the Aleppo pine it's not as heavy, as dense as eucalyptus, of course, but it's doesn't feel like a sponge.